Hi, everybody. Welcome to my Facebook Live about how to improve your Wi-Fi. Where should I stand and be out of your way? I'm trying something a little bit different today, so hopefully it helps. Um, my goal today is to teach you things you can do at home to improve your Wi-Fi. I've been doing this for 15 years, and over the years, obviously, there's a lot more demand on our home Wi-Fi than there used to be on our home network. And so I'm helping customers all the time. Sometimes the things I do are really easy, sometimes they're harder, but a lot of it is stuff that you can do at home. And I just think it'd be helpful for those of you that have questions to be able to kind of watch this for a little bit, and you can do some things at your house to make a difference. And then if you still need help, call someone like me if I'm in your area or someone else to take it a step further to show you the stuff I'm showing you today. But I kind of want to start out with some terminology so we're on the same page. Um, a lot of my customers don't understand some basic things, and I think if you do, it helps to understand where to start looking for where the issue is. So everyone, this is my world right here. Uh, Everyone gets internet from somewhere on the World Wide Web through a source, a company called, either you're a cable on cable, you're on fiber, you're on DSL or satellite, and your company you're paying them obviously a month to bring in so much bandwidth. Now keep in mind that's the amount of bandwidth that's coming to the modem, which I'll tell you in a second. But the reason I say that is I have a customer who is very rural and has DSL, and their bandwidth is really slow. And we can do everything in our house to make it use as much bandwidth as the company is giving them throughout the house as evenly as possible, which we've done. But there's nothing that anyone can do to increase the speed coming into the house other than the company changing the lines coming into the area. And because it's so rural, they're not doing that. So sometimes you're really dependent on what the company can give you or can't. Luckily for a lot of us, we can get pretty high rates now, and it's just deciding how much we want to pay for a month. Um, so coming in from the World Wide Web via cable, fiber optic, DSL, or even satellite, your connection goes to a modem that's in your house. Now, a lot of times people are renting these modems from the cable company, and it's an all-in-one. So it's the modem and what's called a router. So you have your first piece is a modem. I'm just going to put an M here for that. And then that connects to a router. Now, the modem is kind of like the post office box for your house. Everything comes into that. Um, and it's just a link to your router. If you again, sometimes this can be two things in one. I'll talk a little bit later about why it might be useful to have two separate ones. But anyways, the point is your modem gets the signal from the World Wide Web via your service, and then it hands it off to the router, whether it's external or internal. The router, I want you to start thinking as kind of the brains of your network system, and maybe maybe like the local post office where it's assigning everything addresses. So as my phone connects to it, it gets a certain address. As your daughter's phone or son's phone or spouse's phone or laptop connects to it, each one of those devices in your house gets what's called a Wi-Fi address. And every smart device you have in your house. And so it adds up. You can end up having 75, 80 devices in a common house nowadays. It used to be like three or four. So you can see why it's getting more and more challenging to keep a really good network. But anyway, so this router has the ability to do hardwired network or Wi-Fi. So a lot of times what I'm seeing as a house is the cable guy comes in and he gives them their modem router and he hooks it up somewhere. Usually it's in the basement. Sometimes they'll put it on the main floor right by where the TV is because that's where the cable connection is. So that gives off your Wi-Fi, radiation, not radiation, but waves to your devices, and then it has the ability to have a hardwired connection. Sometimes there's 3 or 4 plugs on the back. Sometimes there's only one. Um, so that's kind of how it works. So if this piece isn't fast enough, then this piece can't be fast enough. If this piece is really fast, but this has a slow connection from here to here, nothing you're going to do in your house is going to change that. So that's why I want you to understand how that all works. Let me look at my notes here real quick. So let's talk about Wi-Fi a little bit first. So Wi-Fi is obviously a wireless signal that spreads through your house. When I first started getting into networking, it was 11B, and then came 11G, and then 11N. And I believe N was also all on what's called a 2.4 gigahertz frequency, so 2.4. It obviously is a lot slower than what we have today, and if you've ever in the past had a modem and it puts out 2 names, one will say sometimes 5 after it, or 2.4, and then the other one says 5G, something like that. So that is this one router putting out 2 different bands of frequency. So those you would start to find on the 11AC, I believe it was, and that now is just kind of, well, Wi-Fi went from letters to now numbers. We're in what's called Wi-Fi 6 right now. There's a 6E for 6 Enhanced, and 7 is just starting to become a little bit more prevalent on the market. So each one can go faster. The thing to understand about 2.4 and 5 is in the beginning, 2.4 is these frequencies are lower. So those frequencies, let's say you have a bedroom right here, your bedroom's here, and your modem's here. And then up on the top floor, you have another bedroom at the other side of the house. And so this is 3 floors up. This signal, 2.4, is going to go through things further, right? So when you're up here, if your modem's way down here, you can connect to this band. But it goes further in your house, and it'll go through more materials that are going to be problematic for 5 because these waves are bigger. They go through things easier and go around obstacles. But that signal obviously carries the original frequencies, which are slower. So now when you have 5, let's say you had the same modem and it only did 5 frequency. Need new erasers. Here's your levels, and you get here, and 5, or excuse me, this is putting out the 5 signal. These are smaller waves, so as it hits things, it starts to interrupt them more, and it doesn't go as far. So even with the same modem, you can get a signal further away, but you're not getting the highest speeds that router, excuse me, can put out because the 5 is getting further away. So one of the things that anyone can do in their house, most anyone, is, I guess it kind of depends on where you have wires and stuff like that. But if your modem is downstairs in the utility room, your modem router are all in one piece and it's from the cable company, most likely your house has other cable connections. One of the best things you can do if you're only running Wi-Fi is to just try and reconnect that down in the basement so it goes to a main floor level. Then it's going to radiate down and radiate up, and you're going to get a more even distribution. So that's a really easy fix for a lot of people to improve their Wi-Fi at home. Now, the other thing I want to talk about that can be confusing for customers or people is, let's say I went out and I bought the brand new Wi-Fi 7 modem from 7 router, and I'm excited because I'm going to hook up my phone, and I hook up to it, and I don't get any difference. Well, the reason is for my phone to be able to take advantage of the newest technology, it has to have the same Wi-Fi receptors as what the router is putting out. So if this is putting out 7, which is the newest format, Wi-Fi 7, and my phone is down here and it's 3 years old and it can only support Wi-Fi 5, this will send me a signal. I'll be able to use it, but it's going to convert down to Wi-Fi 5. So then these can be happy and they can talk together. But that's a really common misconception. I've had people call me, have me come over to their house. They're really frustrated because their laptop isn't working well. And I go to look, and the laptop is like 7 years old, and they have this new Wi-Fi that's not really giving them a lot greater speeds. And I connect my phone to it, and my phone is blazing fast. Well, I can't change the technology. No one can change the technology in your laptop unless you purchase a new laptop that has the higher end receptors in it. So that's another thing. When you're looking at what you're buying, make sure it has the newest Wi-Fi chips in it. Don't buy the cheapest thing and expect to get great performance out of it. That's one of the ways they'll cut corners, is to give you Wi-Fi chips that are older than what's coming out, about to come out, or has already come out even. So important to check your devices, what they have. Phones, obviously iPhones, Androids, the more you keep buying the higher end phones and reoccurring, the higher rate they're going to have in them. But if you buy cheap phones, just make sure it's not giving you a receptor that's really old. So that's a big key to make. That'll make a big difference for how your stuff performs. I want to talk about something that a lot of people kind of forget about and don't realize how important it is. And one aspect of Wi-Fi is that for most Wi-Fi, and this is starting to change with some of the newer stuff, but again, everything has to be up to, like, everything on the system has to be like the newest. And there's a lot of smart home stuff you buy that is still has the old chips in, especially if you're buying do-it-yourself stuff. There's nothing wrong with that, but just so you know that that's on your network and it's affecting how things work. So when your Wi-Fi comes out from your router, let's say you have a phone connected to it and your spouse has a phone connected to it. The way this works is you're watching Netflix and they're watching YouTube, right? So they're watching YouTube, you're watching Netflix. And you may not realize this is happening, but when your spouse is watching YouTube, they're getting little chunks of it. They're not getting the whole video. They're just getting little bits of it, and you're getting little bits of it. But it's far enough ahead that you don't notice this is happening. And your router is sending a couple bits here to your spouse, then a couple to you, then a couple to your spouse, then a couple to you, then a couple here, coming here. It cannot send data out all at one time. Like if you were to slow the system down and look at it and be able to see the waves of what's actually happening, it can only send one thing out via Wi-Fi at once. Now, if you're a networking nerd and you know a lot more about some of the new stuff that's coming out, it's going to start changing, but that's how it is now. And like I said, all the other devices, for your system to work, everything has to be the same, just like I talked about with your phone. So it's going to be a long time till everyone's house is really up to speed with the newest stuff. So why I'm saying this is, on this same router, if you have a TV, right? Your TV that's always sitting still. It never moves. It's mounted on the wall. You're not going to pick up the TV and carry it in the kitchen. It's always sitting at the same spot. And you're streaming Netflix on that. You want to get that TV hardwired. Or let's say you're upstairs and you have an Apple TV, right? You're not going to be carrying that Apple TV around every other day. That's plugged into an older TV. You want that hardwired. And you can have multiple devices going hardwired. And a hardwired network works like a pipe. Think of water. So when I turn water on in the kitchen and I go upstairs in the bathroom and turn water on, it doesn't slow down. All that pressure is going through and it goes everywhere all at once. And that's the same thing that happens on your network when you used a wired connection. So anything that sits still, when I walk into a customer's house, especially if we're doing a new house or remodeling, or even if it's just a customer that's wanting to upgrade their TV, I look and see how hard would it be to wire this. Now, if it's going to cost, you know, them have to pay me 4 hours just to wire an existing TV, it's probably not worth it to them. I will mention it and talk about it, but if it's easy, there's wires there, it's just needing a little bit more equipment, etc., I always try and hardwire anything that's sitting still. So I have a lot of customers when I first start working with them and they're remodeling or they're building a new home, they're like, well, we don't really need to wire it, do we? No, that's not true for a couple reasons. Exactly what I said about the wires. But your Wi-Fi right now, let's say it can support speeds of up to a gigabit, which is really fast to actually get that throughput on a wireless router. Let's say it can support a gigabit. Right now, most people are still watching a lot of 1080p TV, right? But what's happening? 4K is coming in the market. 4K is 4 times the amount of information and resolution that's in a 1080p stream. So you start going paying Netflix to upgrade to 4K. So now your resolution has quadrupled. Guess what's coming out after that? If anyone today is, if you're watching this live, is Monday and last night was the Super Bowl. If you've ever seen the Super Bowl or a football game in general, NFL, and at the end when they get a touchdown, you see the real close up of a guy running, on the field after he scored a touchdown. Well, if you ever see from a faraway shot, there's a guy in the end that has a camera. It looks like a normal DSL camera on this weird thing that they carry around, and they run out on the field and they come up close to them. That camera is actually 8K. So more and more stuff is already being filmed in 8K. It's not going to be long until 8K comes into the market with TVs. They're already making 8K TVs. They look phenomenal. They upscale 4K already. But when they have 8K content on them, it's mind-blowing. It's like the TV isn't there and you're just watching the real world. It's amazing. So 8K is coming, and that means that's even more bandwidth on what you already have for your Wi-Fi. So what you have is your Wi-Fi is getting faster, right? Your Wi-Fi is getting faster, but on the other end, video is getting bigger. So this is happening, and it creates this cycle. So yes, you can have great Wi-Fi, but the more demand you take off that Wi-Fi and you wire these things in, it's going to be a lot easier for your videos that you're watching, your TVs, streaming, all that stuff to be able to handle the highest resolution. The other thing to know is like Netflix. Um, if you're watching Netflix and your internet connection gets slow, Netflix has a way because they don't want it to buffer. Like they hate it when it buffers because that frustrates their customers and you're going to think it's their fault. And so they try to minimize that, and I'm pretty sure other streaming companies do the same thing. I know Netflix does it. So what happens is as it detects your bandwidth is slowing down, it drops your resolution. And it might not seem like you can notice it, but it's like I tell customers, if you see one TV versus another, you see the difference. But when you only seen your TV, you don't know. So they're slowing it down. Your resolution is getting poorer, and all because your network isn't set up properly. So a couple other things that are really easy to do with your Wi-Fi, with your home system, networking. Oh, to let you know, if you want to try and do this at home, um, if you look, a lot of new homes are built with wires going to all these different rooms. So a network wire. On the back of your router are going to be some ports. If you take this and go into a connection that says great room and your TV's in the great room and you can find the other connection there and connect that to your TV, it will be hardwired. Now this only has 4 outputs. You may have 10 different spots you want to hardwire. You can buy what's called a switch. There's different quality ones. Again, the higher quality is going to allow faster throughput, even though it says they both might say gigabit. But this is going to allow higher fast put. Higher quality ones are going to allow more things to be fast all at the same time on a wired network. And this is called a switch, and you can buy them in 5, 8, 16, 24. But let's say this is 5, and you come out of here. Now you can go to more devices, and it just kind of mimics it and expands how many you can wire in. Really easy to use. This is one way to improve your signal, get those things hardwired. The other thing to do is, what I do a lot for my customers is I have a system that can automatically reboot their router and modem if they're separate. So those get rebooted every week. That's good to do at least every quarter would be a good idea, every 2 or 3 months, because just like your phone slows down, just like a laptop slows down, same thing with your TVs, unplug them and reboot them. So that's just a good tip to think about. People don't think about that, but if your system seems slow, unplug everything from power, plug it back in, let all that memory that's in there, that cache, kind of reset. So I'll kind of leave you with this. I know we're already getting at 20 minutes, but what I do is I talked about Wi-Fi not going very far at the faster speeds. So what I use is what's called a mesh network system for most of my homes. Um, and there's different types and different qualities, of course. So I use a higher quality. Right now I'm usually using the 6E level. And what's interesting is I've actually gone into, here in our area, Comcast is real popular. I've gone hardwired right into my Eero Pro 6E out of their device, connected my phone to their device, and my customer was getting, they said 300, and I was getting like 250 to 300 on theirs. I went to my device that's just plugged into theirs, Wi-Fi, and I was getting substantially more, almost 400 to 420. So just because they say it's the same doesn't mean it is. But the way a mesh network works is you want to expand your Wi-Fi, so you have a router. So the modem is separate, and you buy this router. In a mesh network, usually well, the ones I use, they're all the same. You can buy 3 points. This router can sit here. You have another one over here and another one over here. So now each spot is radiating 5G around. So as you go through your house, no matter where you go, you're getting close to a 5G signal, which is your fastest speeds. And then these devices talk to each other, and they will tell each other that your phone is now closer to this home, so it'll go to that signal, and then as you go upstairs, it knows you're closer to that, and after a second, after like a minute, it recognizes it and it changes it. So it gives you better connection, higher speeds all throughout your house, because like we said, Wi-Fi, fast Wi-Fi does not go very far through your home. So mesh networks are a really good thing. And the one I use can be hardwired. So as this device is talking to this device, sending a signal back and forth, these are all hardwired, so they're not trying to use Wi-Fi to talk to each other. Now, there are times when you can't get a hardwired connection, you can still do these will still talk to each other by Wi-Fi on a separate band, the better ones do. And that is a great system to use. It's really easy. The thing I want you to avoid when you're trying to expand your Wi-Fi is to use what are called extenders. That used to be a thing that people would use. It's one of the worst things you can do for your Wi-Fi. Sometimes it'll create a different name, gets confusing, but really they're not, they do, like, it looks like it's expanding your network, but it has to almost cut the out speed in half in order to connect, and it's just the way that technology works. So do not buy extenders. Go for a mesh system. They're more expensive, but you're going to be so much happier with them. And if you have any questions, we're always here to help. So I hope this has been helpful for you. Please give me comments of feedback, questions you might have. I would love to hear what comes up in your mind, what problems you've had. It just helps me realize how to do what I'm doing better. So I'd appreciate your help. Again, this is Doug from 123 Home Theater in Minnesota. Love your comments and feedback, and thanks for watching.